What happens when an army that was once thought unstoppable suddenly begins losing ground, village after village, while its opponents, smaller, more agile, and determined, push forward with undeniable momentum? That's exactly what is unfolding on the battlefields of Ukraine right now. Russia's long vaunted summer offensive has collapsed into disarray, and the armed forces of Ukraine are seizing opportunities that only weeks ago seemed almost impossible. New ground has been liberated, Russian forces have been encircled, and critical supply routes once thought secure are now under Ukrainian pressure. The latest news confirms a stunning development. Ukraine has retaken the village of Novomykhailivka, a seemingly small settlement, but one that carries strategic weight far beyond its size. This is not just another blue spot on the map, it's a breakthrough on a critical road network that Russia desperately needs for resupplying its front lines. The Ukrainian counterattack was so effective that no amount of Russian artillery or drone assaults could halt the advance. The entire village is now in Ukrainian hands, and video evidence from the ground leaves no room for doubt. This matters far more than many realize. Novomykhailivka sits at a crossroads of multiple supply routes that Russia has been relying on to keep its forward positions alive. By cutting into this network, Ukraine has not only freed another piece of occupied land, but also disrupted the logistical arteries Russia needs to sustain its operations. In war, supplies are lifelines. Break them, and even the strongest army begins to crumble. But that is just the beginning of the story. Footage from the 3rd Army Corps shows Ukrainian troops maneuvering with precision, clearing out resistance, and even capturing Russian soldiers in the area. Prisoners were seen being taken out of the battlefield in military vehicles, a rare but powerful moment that signals how Ukraine's battlefield confidence has grown. These are not isolated ambushes. This is systematic pressure being applied on multiple fronts, squeezing Russian positions and forcing them into increasingly vulnerable situations. And while Novomykhailivka made headlines, it is not the only hotspot where Ukraine is striking blows. Fighting continues near Krasnohorivka, where Ukrainian forces have managed to maintain their positions despite relentless Russian counterattacks. The last 24 hours may not have brought visible changes on the maps, but the reality on the ground is one of steady Ukrainian pressure, forcing Russia to expend ammunition, manpower, and resources just to hold lines that are already crumbling. Perhaps even more dramatic are the reports emerging from Minahorod. Ukrainian commander Oleksandr Syrsky revealed new details of ongoing operations in this hotly contested sector. Only weeks ago, the area around Mirn was seen as a gray zone, heavily contested with unclear control, but Ukrainian advancements have shifted the balance, forcing Russian units back and creating openings for deeper strikes. Russian footage filmed in the region paints a grim picture for Moscow: panicked retreats, defensive chaos, and visible cracks in the supposed Russian advance. Analysts suggest that Russian troops here are facing extreme pressure, with Ukrainian brigades gaining ground not only tactically, but psychologically. Soldiers fighting under panic are soldiers already half defeated. Further north, fighting rages around Rodinsky. Russia had claimed advances in the area, but reports suggest that only small sabotage groups managed to infiltrate briefly, without any substantial hold on the town. For now, Rodinsky remains contested, but its importance cannot be overstated. If Russia were to seize Rodinska, Minahorod itself would be threatened, creating a domino effect of collapses for Ukrainian defensive lines. But instead, Ukraine is consolidating positions, denying Russia the chance to expand its bridgehead, and even pushing forward near nearby Nikolsky village with several brigades working in coordination. The successes don't stop there. Syrsky also confirmed that Ukrainian counterattacks in the Kramatorsk direction have brought liberation to several villages, including Zeleny High and Tolstoy. These advances, though small in appearance, stitch together a larger story. Russia's offensive power has not only stalled, but reversed. With every regained settlement, Ukraine strengthens its position and further exposes Russian weaknesses. The truth is now undeniable. The much-hyped Russian summer campaign has failed. Moscow's declared objective of conquering the Donbass before the end of summer has slipped into impossibility. Days remain on the calendar, but the window for success is closed. Even if Russia tries to regroup during the autumn months, the terrain and weather will work against fast maneuvers. Winter will freeze movements, and the chance for sweeping Russian offensives will not return until late spring or summer next year. But time is a weapon Ukraine is wielding masterfully. The longer Russia is stalled, the more its losses accumulate, and the more Ukraine gains momentum. Take, for example, the battles near Ivanivka, where Ukrainian brigades like the famed 93rd have encircled Russian units. Maps once showed Russian forces clinging to forested patches of land, but these are shrinking pockets of desperation. If any Russians remain there, their situation is hopeless. Encircled, cut off from supply, and with no escape routes, these soldiers are effectively trapped. Ukraine has learned from earlier stages of the war, never allowing pockets of resistance to linger, but closing them off and forcing surrenders or eliminations. Elsewhere, Ukrainian counterattacks have driven Russian sabotage groups out of Pokrovsk, once again showing how agile Ukrainian forces are in flushing out infiltration attempts before they can solidify into stronger footholds. Amid these battlefield victories, Ukraine also celebrated a deeply emotional moment: the return of former Kherson Mayor Volodymyr Mykolenko in a prisoner exchange. Mykolenko, who had been abducted and held for 3.5 years by Russian forces, reappeared visibly aged, his suffering clear on his face. Russians had tried to force him into cooperation, but he resisted even when placed in front of propaganda cameras. He declared Kherson as Ukrainian, openly defying his captors. His release is more than personal relief. It is symbolic of Ukraine's resilience, a reminder that even under torture and captivity, the spirit of defiance survives. While frontline gains dominate headlines, Ukraine continues to strike deep into Russian territory. Explosions were reported in Kursk, Bryansk, Belgorod, Tula, and even the Moscow region, as Ukrainian drones and missiles targeted critical military and energy infrastructure. These strikes are not random acts of retaliation. They are calculated efforts to choke Russia's war machine by destroying oil refineries, fuel depots, and supply bases. Recent footage shows Russian convoys stranded in the Far East, their trucks carrying flammable material but unable to move forward due to a fuel shortage. Strikes on refineries have disrupted Russia's ability to refine and distribute diesel, hitting at the very heart of its logistics. Even Russian air bases are not safe. Images emerged of a MiG-29 fighter jet awkwardly stuck during transportation, a symbolic image of Russia's strained military capacity. What was once a feared arsenal of warplanes now looks increasingly battered, grounded, and dysfunctional. The cracks are not just in hardware, but in manpower. A viral video revealed Russian soldiers fumbling with the most basic of tasks, reloading their rifles. Mockery spread online as one soldier struggled endlessly with a Kalashnikov, a weapon so simple that even school-age cadets have learned to reload it in seconds. This display of incompetence speaks volumes about the declining quality of Russian recruits, many of whom are older, undertrained, and unwilling, yet sent to the front lines of one of the most brutal wars of the century. Perhaps the most extraordinary scene comes not from soldiers, but from a civilian in Donetsk who managed to capture a Russian drone with his bare hands. The footage shows him wrestling the UAV down, disarming its payload, and dismantling it piece by piece. It's a surreal image of how ordinary Ukrainians living under bombardment are stepping into roles once reserved for trained soldiers. Proof that the will of the people is as strong a weapon as any missile system. Meanwhile, Russia continues to embarrass itself on the diplomatic stage. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, confronted about Russia's invasion, clung to the tired narrative of a special military operation, refusing to acknowledge the reality of a full-scale war. Within Russia, even the word war is criminalized. Citizens risk jail simply for speaking it aloud. Yet, despite their attempts to control the narrative, the battlefield tells a different story. No amount of linguistic gymnastics can disguise the fact that Russia's campaign is faltering. Even Hungary, a European outlier in supporting Moscow's line, faced harsh rebuttals from Ukraine's foreign minister after accusing Kyiv of threatening its energy security. The response was clear: Ukraine strikes only Russian military and energy infrastructure because it is Russia that chose this war. If Hungary truly wants to stay out of it, the message was, then it should stop shielding Moscow's aggression. Adding to Ukraine's growing advantage, Sweden confirmed the delivery of advanced ASC-890 airborne early warning aircraft. These powerful platforms give Ukraine new eyes in the sky, allowing them to track Russian aircraft, missiles, and movements over long distances. This marks a significant leap forward in Ukraine's ability to defend its skies and prepare countermeasures against Russia's bombardments. So, where does all this lead? The story unfolding is not just about villages changing color on a map, it is about momentum. Ukraine has seized the initiative, launching counterattacks across multiple fronts, liberating settlements encircling Russian troops, striking deep into enemy territory, and receiving advanced Western support. In stark contrast, Russia's offensive power is spent. Its summer campaign is broken. Its supply lines are under attack. Its soldiers are increasingly undertrained, demoralized, and trapped. Its propaganda collapses in the face of reality. History shows us that wars are not won by negotiation until the battlefield leaves no other option. And today, Ukraine is proving that with determination, strategy, and international support, even an army as large as Russia's can be driven back. Every reclaimed village, every captured Russian soldier, every drone strike on an oil depot chips away at Moscow's war machine. Ukraine is not just surviving, it is advancing. And as the world watches, the question now is not whether Ukraine can withstand Russia's aggression, but how far its counteroffensive will ultimately go. The front line has shifted, and with it, the entire momentum of this war.